Hugo Lloris. Let's talk about him because
Yeah.
I know I'm of the opinion that he's still a very good goalkeeper, despite the fact he's made a few mistakes recently.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still a big fan of Hugo, and I think he, yes, he's getting old. He's 34. He's getting on a bit, and we probably should at some point in the near future start looking at a long-term replacement for him. But I still believe he's a very good goalkeeper, and I wouldn't have a problem with him being our number one next year.
Okay. So do you not think he's world class anymore? Because earlier this year,
Do I not think he's world class
season you
anymore?
said he was-
I still think he's world class.
you still think he is.
Yeah.
See, I don't. I think he's not quite there anymore. I think his performances have dipped in the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to just completely judge him on that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Because I think that's a little bit unfair, because you've got to give him the opportunity to pick up the performances a little bit. But independent of that, I still think, as I said to you before, I said this actually a few months ago, I said he's a 4 out of 5 goalie, but not a 5 out of 5 goalie. For me, you know, a player like Alisson's got the edge on him, you know. I know Alisson's also made mistakes, but I think we could be looking to maybe move him on next season. But if we do keep him, I wouldn't be too disappointed either.
But the thing is with Lloris, he's always, whenever he makes a mistake, he always gets highlighted. I feel a lot more than maybe other keepers. For example, other keepers, maybe it's because he's playing for a club like Spurs, and other keepers, lower down the league, their performances aren't as analysed as intensely, because then they're not as a club as higher up in the league. But I feel like whenever he makes a mistake, it definitely gets pointed at as a evidence he's not good enough anymore, and people want to chuck him away a lot. And I feel like he has a lot of good games, and he's been very consistent this season, especially up until the last 3 weeks. And that has gone unnoticed. And as soon as he made one mistake, people are ready to jump on him already and ready to say he's not good enough, and that's it for him.
You know, it's not even the calamitous moments for me that I think he's being scrutinised for. There's little things where I think he's actually starting to stay too close onto his line, you know.
Yeah.
I actually mentioned this a few games ago, and then he kept doing it. Like, he's not coming out and covering his angles on his tangent angles for each post, you know. And I think he's continually doing that. Someone made the comment, it's called chocolate wrists. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's when a goalie's too scared to come off their line. We saw that a little bit with Paul Robinson towards the end of his Spurs career, where he was actually too frightened to sort of come off his line. You know, I'm starting to see a little bit of that, not nowhere near as much as when Robinson lost his confidence. You know what I mean? But I do think I have seen a big shift in Lloris's performances, where he's sort of not quite commanding the areas as well.
I agree with you, but you can't. Why can't we just say a player's having a bad run of form? Why do we have to say he's finished and he's no good enough anymore and we need to sell him? Like, Alisson has a bad run of form. He gave about 3 or 4 goals away in like 4 games. He just passed it straight to the player. No one's saying he's no longer good enough. Yeah, when it comes to Lloris, it can't be a bad run of form. It has to be he's not good enough anymore.
I think it's not just those errors though. I have seen that. For me, Alisson's the better goalkeeper.
I'm not denying that. I'm just saying it's interesting in perspectives how people see things. Like, obviously, I know Alisson's a very good keeper. That's my point. He's still world class, and he's still a very good keeper. But why can't we give Lloris the same benefit?
I think because people aren't just judging it on that. They're just seeing that they're looking at the whole picture of Lloris, and maybe he is coming to the end of his Spurs career. You never know. And
based on the last 3 weeks.
Maybe his head's being turned a little bit as well. Maybe that could be a factor.
I don't know. That's just speculation, but
he's certainly not the same Lloris than we saw when he came back from injury last season. I thought that for me that was his performances then were first class. But we have seen a big dip at the moment.
Pretty much from that point you're talking about when he came back from injury up until I would say the game against I think it was Liverpool, where he made those 2 mistakes. He's been really consistent since the Liverpool game. He's made mistakes against that game against Liverpool, the game against Everton, and the home game against Liverpool as well. The game against Liverpool at home, the game against Everton and Man City. You could say he made a few mistakes there. But why can't we just put it down to a bad run of form? Why do we have to say he's now finished and he's not good enough anymore when he's had so long consistently? He's, as you said, from that injury, he's pretty much been consistent
that was good performances.
Up until 3 weeks ago.
Well, I would say,
why can't we just say the last 3 weeks are bad run of form and I trust him to get back to his best? Why do we say now I'm seeing evidence he's not good enough?
Because I think if you go back a little bit further and look at his performances before the injury, they were not that great, you know. And then after the injury, they were great, and then now they're poor. So I think if you kind of, instead of just taking the last 2 kind of the dips and troughs. I think if you go back a little bit further, I would say my feeling is with him. My feeling is that maybe he is coming to the end of his time with Spurs. But as I said, I would still be okay with him if he started next season. But I mean, maybe we could do a poll. Maybe we can ask.
I don't know how to. Yeah.
How do we do a poll?
We could do a Twitter poll, probably.
We'll do a Twitter poll. Do you think we should keep Hugo for next season?
All right, everyone put a.
So let's say for next season.
Hugo or no Hugo?
No, Hugo in, Hugo out for next season. So for next season, Hugo in.
All right, Hugo in and Hugo out. Put it in the chat. Let's see.
For next season.
Let's see what people are thinking in the chat. Put it in the chat. Hugo in, Hugo out. I want to see what the general consensus is. If people think Hugo should be our keeper next season. I'm still backing him. I still think he's a very good goalkeeper, and I think he is a bad run of form. I don't deny that, and there's things he could be doing better, but I think as with every player, they go through bad run of form, and I think he's been exceptional up until this bad run of form, pretty much for a while. So I think it's harsh to just judge him on this bad run of form and say he's not good enough, even despite the fact his performances before his injury also may have been found wanting. I think the good run of form was more indicative of Hugo than the bad run of form, I would say.
Okay, yeah. I mean, as I said, I wouldn't be too disappointed if he started next season. But I think we should be having half an eye on a new goalie, definitely.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. I do agree with that.